The disappearance and the desperate stand. The emergency alarms blared throughout the United Earth Defense Command headquarters as Commander Elena Reyes sprinted down the corridor, her heart pounding in her chest. Red warning lights bathed the hallways in an ominous glow, turning the faces of rushing personnel into masks of crimson anxiety. Status report. She barked as she burst onto the command deck. The massive circular room buzzed with frantic activity as officers worked their stations with practiced efficiency despite the chaos unfolding on the main display. The Krasic fleet has breached the Martian defense line, Lieutenant Commander Jackson replied, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. Colony evacuation is at 70%, but the Krasic are advancing faster than projected. Elena stared at the tactical display, watching as the overwhelming Krasic armada pushed through humanity's defenses. The alien empire had appeared in Earth's solar system 3 years ago, their technology far outpacing humanity's, their intentions clear: conquest and subjugation. "Where's the Fourth Fleet?" she demanded. Jackson's expression darkened. "Still engaged at Europa. They can't disengage without leaving the Jupiter settlements completely exposed." Elena's gaze drifted to the empty dock icon on the display, the space where Earth's most advanced battleship should have been. The U.S. Tempest had vanished 2 years ago on a critical mission to infiltrate Krasic territory and gather intelligence on their central command structure. The ship, commanded by Captain Marcus Chen, her husband, had disappeared without a trace. The loss of the Tempest had been both a strategic and personal blow. The ship had been humanity's pride, equipped with experimental weapons and defense systems that might have given Earth a fighting chance. More importantly to Elena, it had carried the only family she had left. "Commander," Communications Officer Rivera called, "Admiral Takahashi is requesting your presence in the war room immediately." Elena nodded, her face a mask of professional composure despite the turmoil inside. She had learned to compartmentalize her grief, to focus on the present fight rather than past losses. Humanity needed every capable officer now more than ever. The war room was smaller than the command center, designed for strategy meetings among the highest-ranking officers. Admiral Takahashi stood at the head of the table, his weathered face lined with exhaustion. Once tall and imposing, the strain of leading humanity's desperate defense had bent his shoulders and added silver to his hair. "Commander Reyes," he acknowledged as she entered. "Admiral," she returned, standing at attention. "At ease," he said, gesturing to a chair. "I need your tactical assessment. The Krasic have adapted to our defensive strategies faster than anticipated. At current rates of attrition, we have perhaps 4 months before they reach Earth itself." Elena studied the 3-dimensional projection of the solar system, watching the simulated movements of the enemy fleet. "Their coordination is nearly perfect," she observed. "Their ships move as a single organism rather than individual vessels. We need to disrupt their command and control systems." "Precisely what the Tempest was supposed to help us accomplish," Takahashi said, his voice tinged with regret. The mere mention of the ship sent a pang through Elena's chest, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "We still have options, sir." The stealth corvette's cold. A lieutenant burst into the room without warning, his face flushed. "Admiral, Commander, apologies for the interruption, but we're detecting an unusual signal from the Kuiper Belt." Takahashi frowned. "Krasic reinforcements?" "No, sir. It's—" The lieutenant hesitated. "It's a UEN emergency beacon. An old one." Elena felt her heart skip a beat. "Which ship?" she asked, though something in her already knew the answer. "Initial analysis suggests it's the Tempest, sir." The room fell silent. After 2 years of silence, after being officially declared lost with all hands, after memorial services and posthumous medals, the Tempest was somehow signaling home. "Show me," Takahashi ordered. The lieutenant activated his tablet, and a holographic display appeared above the war room table. A signal pattern pulsed in regular intervals, a distress beacon, but modified. Embedded within the standard emergency code was a message that made Alina's blood run cold. Coming home. Not alone. Prepare for our arrival. Chen. Could be a trap, Takahashi said, voicing the concern that everyone in the room felt. The Krasic could have captured the ship, extracted its codes. Alina shook her head. There's more, sir. She pointed to a sequence within the signal. This is a personal code. Something only Marcus and I would know. She swallowed hard. It's real. They're alive. Takahashi's expression remained guarded. Even if it is the Tempest, where have they been for 2 years? And what does not alone mean? Have they been captured? Are they bringing Krasic ships with them? Or allies? Alina suggested, hope creeping into her voice for the first time in years. The mission was to gather intelligence, but what if they found something more? What if they found help? The Admiral's eyes narrowed as he considered the possibilities. How long until they reach Earth space based on the signal origin? The lieutenant consulted his tablet. At maximum UEN engine capacity, approximately 3 days, sir. We don't have 3 days, Takahashi said grimly. The Krasic are pushing toward the inner system faster than expected. Their main fleet will reach Earth's orbit in less than 48 hours. Alina stared at the tactical display, watching as the massive Krasic armada continued its inexorable advance toward her homeworld. Earth's remaining defenses, a patchwork of battleships, orbital platforms, and ground-based weapon systems, were formidable but insufficient against the overwhelming technological superiority of the alien invaders. Sir, she said, her voice quiet but firm, request permission to take the Defiant to rendezvous with the Tempest. Takahashi's eyebrows rose. The Defiant is one of our few remaining heavy cruisers, Commander. We need every ship for Earth's defense. If the Tempest has found allies or technology that could help us, we need to secure it as quickly as possible. The Defiant is the fastest ship we have. The Admiral was silent for a long moment, weighing the desperate gamble against the certainty of defeat if they continued their current course. Finally, he nodded. Permission granted. Take the Defiant and a small escort. Find the Tempest and bring them home, if it's really them. We'll hold the line here as long as we can. 12 hours later, Alina stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as Earth grew smaller on the view screen. The sleek cruiser, flanked by 2 smaller frigates, accelerated to maximum speed, its powerful engines straining as it raced toward the coordinates where the Tempest's signal had originated. Course plotted and locked in, Commander, the helmsman reported. ETA to signal origin is 36 hours at current velocity. Alina nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. Maintain course and speed. All sensors at maximum range. I want to know the moment anything appears out there. As the Defiant pushed deeper into the outer solar system, Alina retreated to her quarters. She needed rest before they reached their destination, but sleep eluded her. Instead, she found herself staring at the small hologram on her desk, a 3-dimensional image of Marcus on their wedding day, his smile bright and confident, his eyes full of promise for their future together. Where have you been? She whispered to the image. What happened to you out there? The Defiant's journey continued without incident for almost 30 hours. They had passed the orbit of Neptune and were approaching the Kuiper belt when the first anomalies appeared. Commander to the bridge. The intercom blared, jolting Alina from a fitful sleep. She arrived to find the bridge crew gathered around the sensor display, their faces illuminated by its blue glow. What is it? She demanded. Lieutenant Commander Oliveira, the Defiant's science officer, looked up from her console. We're detecting unusual energy readings ahead, Commander. Nothing like Krasic signatures, nothing like ours either. Alina moved to the display, studying the readings. Distance. Approximately 2 light hours, Oliveira replied. But there's more. The readings are fluctuating, as if space itself is being distorted. Before Alina could respond, the communications officer called out, Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's on the Tempest's command frequency. Elena's heart raced. Put it through. The main view screen flickered, and for a moment, static filled the display. Then gradually, an image formed. The face of a man Elena had mourned for 2 years. Captain Marcus Chen looked older than she remembered, his once smooth face now weathered and lined, a jagged scar running from his left temple to his jaw. But his eyes, those were the same, determined, intelligent, and now reflecting a depth of experience that hadn't been there before. "Elena," he said, his voice rougher than she remembered. "Stand by. We're coming to you." Before she could respond, the transmission cut off, and the sensor alarms began to blare. Massive spatial distortion forming directly ahead. Oliveira shouted, "Configuration similar to a Krasik warp point, but the energy signature is completely different." "Shields up," Elena ordered automatically, even as hope and fear warred within her. "All weapons on standby." The view screen showed only stars and the blackness of space, but the sensor readings told a different story. Something massive was approaching, tearing its way through the fabric of reality itself. "Spatial distortion stabilizing," Oliveira reported, her voice hushed with awe. "Something's coming through." The crew watched in stunned silence as a shape began to materialize from the swirling vortex of energy. It was a ship, or at least it had been a ship once. The basic configuration was recognizable as the U.S. Tempest, but the similarities ended there. The vessel that emerged was nearly twice the original size, its hull covered in unfamiliar technology that pulsed with energy. Battle scars marred its surface, telling tales of countless conflicts, yet it moved with a grace that belied its massive size. "My God," someone whispered on the bridge. Before anyone could fully process what they were seeing, more spatial rifts began to open around the transformed Tempest. From each emerged ships of wildly varying designs, some sleek and organic, others angular and geometric, all bristling with weapons and technology far beyond humanity's understanding. "We're being hailed again," the communications officer said, her voice shaking slightly. Elena nodded, her eyes never leaving the incredible sight before them. Captain Marcus Chen's face appeared once more on the screen, a slight smile now visible beneath the scar tissue. "Hello, Elena," he said. "The Tempest has returned, and we've brought the storm." The return and the reckoning. The Defiant's observation deck offered a panoramic view of the most extraordinary fleet humanity had ever encountered. Elena stood silently, watching as the transformed Tempest and its alien escorts moved in perfect formation toward the inner solar system. Behind her, Captain Marcus Chen, her husband, returned from the dead, waited patiently for her reaction. 2 years, Elena finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. 2 years of mourning you, of thinking you were dead. 2 years of watching Earth's defenses crumble while the Krasik pushed us back planet by planet. She turned to face him. "Where have you been, Marcus?" The man before her was both familiar and strange. His posture, the way he held his head, the subtle movements of his hands, these were the same. But the cybernetic implant visible at his temple, the strange iridescent quality to his eyes, and the weathered hardness of his expression spoke of experiences she couldn't begin to comprehend. "For us, it wasn't 2 years," Marcus said quietly. "The spatial anomaly that swallowed the Tempest wasn't just a portal through space, but time as well. We've been gone for 23 years, Elena." She stared at him, struggling to process his words. "That's impossible. I thought so too, once." He moved to the window, gazing out at the fleet. "The Krasik aren't just a threat to humanity, Elena. They're a plague that has consumed countless civilizations across multiple galaxies. When the Tempest was caught in that anomaly, we were thrown into a region of space where dozens of species had already fallen to them, and dozens more were fighting desperately to survive." He turned back to her, his eyes intense. "We found allies, survivors and refugees from conquered worlds, resistance fighters with technologies the Krasik haven't been able to counter. Together, we formed the coalition." Elena moved closer to the window, studying the alien vessels. Now that she looked more carefully, she could see the diversity in their design. Each ship representing a different civilization, a different approach to engineering and warfare. And now you've brought them back to help Earth. Marcus nodded. We've spent years fighting the Krasik across multiple star systems. We've learned their weaknesses, developed weapons that can pierce their defenses. And now we've returned to ensure Earth doesn't fall as so many other worlds have. A chime from the communication system interrupted them. Commander Reyes, came Lieutenant Commander Oliveira's voice. Admiral Takahashi is requesting an immediate conference. The Krasik fleet has accelerated. They'll reach Earth in less than 12 hours. Elena glanced at Marcus, who nodded grimly. Tell the Admiral we're on our way, she responded. And inform him that we're bringing help. The war room aboard the Defiant buzzed with tension as holographic projections displayed the approaching Krasik armada, hundreds of ships in perfect formation, moving inexorably toward Earth. Admiral Takahashi's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his expression a mixture of hope and skepticism as he regarded Marcus and the alien representatives gathered around the table. Captain Chen, Takahashi said formally, your return is unexpected. Admiral, Marcus acknowledged with a nod. Allow me to introduce Alliance Commander Zoran Vek of the Arcadian Remnant, Chief Strategist T. Larry from the Solarian Collective, and Grand Technician Xelos of the Valkyr Federation. They represent just 3 of the 12 species that have joined our fight against the Krasik. The aliens were strikingly different from each other. Zara and Vek appeared almost human, save for the subtle bioluminescent patterns that shifted across her pale skin. Tilari was insectoid, with multiple limbs and compound eyes that reflected the light in prismatic patterns. Xelos resembled nothing so much as a sentient crystal formation, light pulsing through their translucent body as they spoke through a translation device. We have fought the Krasik for generations, Zaran Vek said, her voice melodious despite the gravity of her words. They destroyed our homeworld, but they could not destroy our will to resist. Our collective intelligence has analyzed their strategies across 1,000 battles. Tilari added, mandibles clicking softly. We know how they think, how they adapt, and most importantly, how they fail. Xelos's crystalline form shifted, colors flowing through their body as they spoke, and we have developed technologies specifically designed to counter their advantages. Technologies we now offer to Earth in its hour of need. Admiral Takahashi's skepticism visibly wavered. We appreciate the offer of alliance, but the Krasik will reach us within hours. Even with your ships, we're outnumbered. Marcus stepped forward. Numbers aren't everything, Admiral. The Tempest alone can match a dozen Krasik dreadnoughts now. And we have something they don't expect. Knowledge of their command structure vulnerabilities. He activated a holographic display showing the approaching Krasik fleet. Their ships appear to move with perfect coordination because they're linked through quantum entanglement nodes. Each major vessel contains a node that must remain in sync with the others. Disrupt those nodes, and their formation falls apart. How do we target these nodes? Alina asked, studying the display. Tilari moved forward, multiple limbs gesturing at specific points on the largest Krasik vessels. Their shields are weakest here and here, a design flaw they've never corrected because no species they've encountered has had the technology to exploit it. Until now, Zaran Vek added with a cold smile. The next hours passed in a blur of preparation. The Coalition fleet took position between Earth and the approaching Krasik armada, their formations carefully planned to exploit the enemy's weaknesses. The Tempest, now the most advanced ship in the system, took the center position, its transformed hull humming with power as weapon systems charge. On the Tempest's bridge, Elena stood beside Marcus, watching as the enemy fleet appeared on the long-range sensors. The Krasik ships were sleek and predatory, their black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it, making them appear as voids against the stars. They're within range, reported the tactical officer, a woman whose cybernetic arms interfaced directly with the ship's weapon systems. Marcus nodded, his face set in determined lines. All ships, execute Phase 1. The Coalition fleet moved with practiced precision, smaller vessels darting forward, while larger ships provided covering fire. The Krasik responded as expected, their perfect formation shifting to address the perceived threat, exactly as the Coalition had planned. They're realigning their quantum nodes, T. Larry observed from her station. Predictable. Execute Phase 2, Marcus ordered. The Tempest surged forward, its advanced propulsion system leaving a trail of ethereal light as it accelerated directly toward the heart of the enemy formation. Krasik weapon systems locked onto the approaching vessel, energy beams lancing out, only to be absorbed by the Tempest's adaptive shielding. Return fire, Marcus commanded. Target their command vessels, priority on quantum node locations. The Tempest's weapons weren't the conventional railguns and missile systems it had left Earth with 2 years ago. Instead, beams of concentrated energy that seemed to distort the very fabric of space erupted from its modified hull, cutting through the supposedly impenetrable Krasik shields as if they were mist. The first Krasik command ship didn't simply take damage, it disintegrated, the quantum node at its core destabilizing in a cascade reaction that tore the vessel apart from within. The destruction sent ripples of confusion through the enemy fleet as ships suddenly lost their perfect synchronization. Their formation is breaking down, Elena observed, watching as the once perfect Krasik battle lines began to waver. Marcus nodded, a grim satisfaction in his eyes. They're experiencing something new, doubt. The Krasik believe themselves technologically superior to all other species. That belief is the foundation of their empire. Shake it, and everything else follows. The Coalition fleet pressed the advantage, targeting Krasik vessels with precision as they struggled to adapt to the unexpected resistance. Ships that had terrorized countless worlds now found themselves outmatched, their supposedly superior technology countered at every turn. On Earth, civilians and military personnel alike watched in awe as the tide of battle turned. The Krasik fleet, which had seemed unstoppable just hours before, was now in disarray, individual ships attempting to retreat as their command structure collapsed. "They're running." Admiral Takahashi's voice came through the communication system, disbelief evident in his tone. "Not yet," Marcus replied, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "There's still their flagship." The massive vessel at the center of the Krasik formation had remained largely untouched, its defenses more formidable than its escorts. As its support ships fell or retreated, it began to power up what appeared to be a primary weapon system. "They're preparing to fire on Earth directly," Zara Vek warned, her bioluminescent patterns flashing with alarm. Marcus exchanged a look with Elena. "We need to stop that weapon. The Tempest is the only ship that can get close enough." Elena understood immediately what he wasn't saying. Such a mission would likely be one way. After finding him again after 2 years, she might lose him once more. "There has to be another way," she began, but Marcus cut her off with a gentle touch to her arm. "There is," he said, a slight smile on his scared face. "Xelos has been working on something special just for this scenario." The crystalline alien stepped forward, their body pulsing with intense light. "We call it the Nexus Key. It targets the specific frequency of the Krasik quantum entanglement. One direct hit to their flagship's core, and every node in their fleet will cascade into failure. But we still need to deliver it," Elena pointed out. Marcus nodded. "That's where the Tempest comes in. Our shields can withstand their weapons long enough to get into position." The next minutes unfolded with tense precision. The Tempest accelerated toward the Krasik flagship, absorbing punishment that would have vaporized any other vessel. Coalition ships provided covering fire, targeting the flagship's external weapon systems to buy precious seconds. "In position," the Tempest's helmsman announced as they came within optimal range. "Deploy the Nexus Key," Marcus ordered. A single projectile, small enough to evade most defensive systems, launched from the Tempest. It streaked toward the Krasik flagship, its crystalline structure glowing with internal energy. The enemy vessel attempted evasive maneuvers, but the coalition had predicted this response, herding it into a position where escape was impossible. The Nexus key struck the flagship's hull, penetrating its weakened shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a pulse of energy rippled outward from the impact point, washing over the vessel in waves of disturbed spacetime. The flagship shuddered, its lights flickering as internal systems failed. The effect spread to the remaining Krasic vessels, jumping from ship to ship as the quantum entanglement network that had been their greatest strength became their undoing. Throughout the system, Krasic ships lost power, weapons, and propulsion, drifting helplessly as their cores shut down. It worked. Elena breathed, watching as the mighty Krasic armada was rendered impotent in a matter of minutes. Marcus nodded, though his expression remained guarded. This is just one fleet. The Krasic Empire spans galaxies. They'll send more. And we'll be ready, Elena replied, determination hardening her voice. Earth won't stand alone anymore. In the days that followed, the coalition established a permanent presence in Earth's solar system. The technology they'd brought revolutionized humanity's defenses, while their knowledge of the galaxy beyond opened new possibilities for exploration and alliance. The Tempest remained Earth's guardian, its transformed hull a constant reminder of how far humanity had come and how far they still had to go. Captain Marcus Chen and Commander Elena Reyes led joint human-alien expeditions to liberate other worlds from Krasic control, building a network of resistance that spread like wildfire through the conquered territories. The war was far from over. The Krasic Empire would not fall in a day or a year, or perhaps even a decade. But for the first time since the aliens had appeared in Earth's skies, humanity faced the future not with desperation, but with hope. The lost warship had returned, bringing with it not just advanced technology and powerful allies, but something far more valuable, the knowledge that they were not alone in their fight, and that together they could create a future where no species lived under the shadow of conquest. The storm of wrath had only just begun.